Welcome to Museums Matter, a series of FB live streams by the Vibal Group, Chinatown Museum, and Iloilo Museum of Contemporary Art. Museums Matter aims to be a platform for museums and a resource for teachers who are looking to museum collections to support digital learning. I'm Yuri Tamura, the museum officer, and your host for the Museums Matter live streams. Fundraising for Museums will discuss ways on how nonprofit organizations can adapt to the current crisis. As the museum landscape quickly shifts from traditional to digital, knowing how to position one's institution is key in staying afloat. The definition of nonprofit institutions extends to more than just museums. This can include schools, foundations, social and entrepreneurship businesses, and NGOs. Today, we are joined by Marian or Mayan Cabral, who co founded Venture for Fundraising in 1999, which she led as executive director until 2013. In that period, Mayan acted as the lead consultant and principal trainer, serving over 1,000 organizations in 24 countries. As a fundraiser, Mayan also has held key posts in places like UNICEF, Save the Children, and the Asian Institute of Management, where she raised over $10 million. Mayan is now a freelance fundraising consultant. Mayan, welcome on to the show.
Hello and good afternoon to everybody. Thank you for the introduction. Welcome everybody to this very quick session about fundraising. I'm here to talk to you about what you need to know about fundraising, and I'm sure this is uppermost in your minds as you start to look at ways to make your organization sustainable. So, we need to define what fundraising is, and it has come in a variety of names, a variety of terms. It's been called donations, it's been called philanthropy, it's come into the form of charity, altruism, and you have so many names to call it. At the end of the day, fundraising is really about raising friends. No? And as a fundraiser, I don't look at the money. I look at establishing and building relationships with people who share the same values as my organization and then taking steps to manage that relationship. This means that we go beyond the money. When we just look at the money, then we will be very disappointed if people don't give to our causes. But if we look at finding friends for our organizations, we will notice that even if they don't give, they've become the friends of our organizations. Many of my donors from way, way back, during my time at UNICEF, which was in the 90s, continue to be my friends today. We have weathered the storms of so many organizations. I've been wearing so many hats, and because we don't just talk about the money, then it becomes easier for me to ask them for donations when the need arises. Now, I call this a management process, and I've highlighted this for you because it should be done all the time. It should not be something you think about when Meralco is going to cut off your electricity. You need to plan this in the same way you plan your museum, in the same way you plan your programs, in the same way you plan your curriculum. You need to also plan your fundraising. It works alongside your entire strategic plan because at the end of the day, you have a good strategic plan, but you don't have money, then your strategic plan will not be implemented as you had planned it. So it's really important that we look at three highlighted statements in this slide. One, it is a management process. Two, it is identifying people. These people might be belonging to a corporation, a funding organization, but they are people. You need to have a relationship with them. You don't just say, "Dear sir" or "Dear ma'am." You say "dear" and you say the name. In fact, you should spell their names properly. You should spell their names correctly. Otherwise, they'll say, "Oh, this person doesn't know me. So why am I going to give to them?" And then third is to manage that relationship. Managing that relationship means you invite them to your events. You write to them about updates. You send them a text during their birthdays. You send them a greeting during Christmas. You don't just write to them or you don't just communicate with them when it's fundraising. And you hear this so often. You actually hear people say, "Oh, you only remember me when you need money." No? So I make it a point to read the newspaper every day. And if I see somebody in the newspaper that I have met with in the past, I will clip that newspaper, that that article, and I will send them a note and say, I read about you in the papers today. I'm not asking for money. I just send that to them to just say that, hello, how are you? And I think that's important when we talk about fundraising. No, if it's fundraising, we just concentrate so much on money. But in fundraising, it's really more. It's a warmer relationship with possible donors for our organization. Okay. So, as nonprofit organizations, where do we get our money? We get our money from three sources. The first one is grants, the second one is gifts, and the third one is what we call earned income. Grants are large sums of money that are often given by funding institutions, the likes of Ford Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation. Bilaterals also would give money, like Japan, Japan Embassy, JICA, USAID, and many others. No, these are bilaterals. There are two countries, the Philippines and another country, partnering for development. There are also multilaterals, such as the UN, that gives money, like UNESCO may be able to fund some of your programs, or UNICEF may be able to fund some of your programs. Now, grants, by their very nature, is usually restricted. You ask for money from USAID to buy laptops, you have to buy laptops. You can't change it and say, oh, we have laptops already, I'll just use it for something else. No? So I call this a golden handcuff, in that what you send to USAID or what you send to any funding organization is what you will use the money for. Now, if you're going to change the way you will spend the money, then you need to ask permission from the funder. You cannot just say, I have savings, then therefore I can use it for something else. No? The Philippines, in the 90s and 2000, no, we were the flavor of the month. We were an emerging democracy, and funding organizations were knocking on our doors and wanted to give us so much money. No? And so it was easy to raise money from funding organizations. You could come up with a proposal today, and tomorrow you'll get a yes. The shortest time that I had done waited for a grant was a day, no, in those years. No, I wrote a proposal, and then the following day we were able to get a response from our grant prospective, no, grant funder. No, today we are no longer the flavor of the month. No, some of these funding organizations have started to move out of the country because we are no longer in the red zone, in that they saw a level of affluence in the Philippines. They probably saw that there were other countries that needed the grant money more than the Philippines, and so they transferred the money that was given to the Philippines in the past to other countries. No, some of them were Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, and then much later on it was Africa, and then it also became Eastern Europe. No, and so it became, we were no longer the flavor of the month, so grants started to diminish. No, they became larger, and they became meant for larger organizations. So the smaller organizations saw that they had a more difficult time accessing grants as opposed to before. No? So I kind of like grants, but I don't like to depend on grants. No, it's not something that you can use for the long term. No, you can't save it in the bank and not spend it. You have to spend it during the period that you said you would spend the money. So grants, yes, but we cannot be dependent on grants all of the time. Gifts are my favorite. I'm a fundraiser, no, and I like gifts because they're usually unrestricted. These are the baskets that go around in church. These are the envelopes that you drop in a coin bank, for example, or an envelope that you send back to World Vision, or the donation that you make online. I like those donations, those gifts, because they are usually unrestricted. No? It says, I trust your organization. Here's a little something for you. The organizations will say 500 pesos can do this, 1,000 pesos can do this, 5,000 pesos can do that. No? In church, for example, after the offertory, no, or after you give your pledge or your tithe, no, um, church reports, no, at the end of the year, no, but it's not like you're going to raise your hand at church and say, excuse me, pastor, father, I gave 500 pesos last week. How did you spend it? No? So very often gifts are given because of trust, because of compassion. No? And gifts are things that can mature into larger donations. In fact, some of the donors of gifts will leave something in their will for your organization, which is something that doesn't happen with grant giving organizations. I have come across in my fundraising experience, no, many donors who have decided to leave something in their will for their favorite charity. In fact, early this year, we received a notice from a lawyer who said that this person had passed away and left something in their will for the organization where I sat as a board member. So that's important, no? Because individuals, if you have a good relationship with them, may leave you something in their will for you. Now, I'm not suggesting that you start going to the ICU and look for people who are ready to die. No, I mean, that's not the way it happens, no? But if you treat them as friends and they stay with you a long time, they will age. You know, they will age as donors, and you have to manage that relationship. When your donors start to move towards their 50s, towards their 60s, no, a conversation about leaving something in their will for your organization is something that you can start. It's not something you start with somebody who's just 20 years old or 30 years old and somebody who's new in your organization as a donor. So you wait for that relationship to mature before you ask them for something like a gift, an inheritance, or a willed bequest. No? So gifts usually come from individuals, no? Usually comes from groups of individuals. For example, alumni class 1967 or alumni class 1975, no? So these are gifts that are given to their alma mater, no? As part of their generosity, no? Part of their compassion for their alma mater. The third source is something that we need to kind of study a little bit, because most nonprofit people, no, development people, no, are not very used to what we call earned income. It is actually a for-profit relationship. You have a T-shirt, you sell it to somebody. That somebody gives you 500 pesos for the T-shirt. No, so development people, no, tayo, no, what happens to us is, oh, kahit na the T-shirt is a little tabingi, no, it's okay, no, because they understand we're a development organization, no. Now, what we're seeing in earned income is that people actually pay for quality, no, and they expect quality, no. Whether it is a training, whether it's a conference, whether it's a T-shirt, it's shampoo, or it's a coffee, you know, people expect that if they buy from you and they give you 500 pesos, they expect good tasting coffee. They expect well handled conferences, no? Because they pay for a service or they pay for a product, no? And so organizations need to make sure that they have the right kind of talent, no, within the organization to manage this, no? Um, some examples will be museum shops. You know, every time I go to a museum, at the end of the museum is always a museum shop, no? And you know, unfortunately, I had been to one museum here in the Philippines where the museum shop is a karinderya, no? And so that's not appealing, no, for somebody who wants to spend a little bit of money buying uh, souvenirs, no, for a museum, no. So other museums will have beautiful, beautiful museum shops, no, because they do know that money that is generated from the sale of products, no, actually turn to become unrestricted money. Whatever you get out of selling a t-shirt, you can spend it on salaries, you can spend it on rent, you can spend it on programs, no, because the relationship is buying a t-shirt, no, and wanting to help you out, no. So one of some of the better examples of earned income will include, you know, Messy Bessie. I like the National Geographic t-shirt. They're very expensive. They're $25 at some point, no, but they last you a long time, no? And people buy those because one, the brand of National Geographic is very strong. Two, the t-shirts are very nice, no? They're made by very good artists, and people like wearing nice t-shirts. So, in fundraising, no, it becomes easy for us to focus on big donors, no? For example, your organization wanted to raise 1 million. It's easier for us to say, I'll just look for one millionaire who will give me 1 million. Instead of thinking about asking people for 100 pesos, no? Because then you'll have to talk to so many people in order to raise your 1 million pesos. No? So in fundraising, no, it's a relationship, as I said earlier. No? So you want to make sure that you bring donors up to higher levels of giving. There will always be a bigger group of people who will only donate to you once. Tawag natin dyan, first-time donors. And a smaller portion of that will actually say, I like this organization. I'm going to give again. So they're called repeat donors. And then an even smaller group of people who will say, okay, I really, really like this organization. They're taking care of me. My advocacy is compatible with their advocacy. So I'll give more. No? Now, if you keep the donor happy, no, studies have shown, Philippine studies have shown that the donor will stay with you on the average 5 years. No? Now, this has become a little bit, this has changed substantially in the past few years because more and more philanthropists or donors have become younger. They're also very mobile, which means that if they don't like your website, they'll just go to the next. Facebook, they're going to have so many people talking to them about different things. If you're not interested in the first 10 seconds, they'll move to the next page. So it's very important for you to have a plan that will bring your donors to higher levels of giving so that you optimize your donors and your friends, no, with these, your friendships with these donors. So as I said, you will have many people who will be, they care about education. They care about museums. Many of them, no? Well, not a lot, but there's a group of them who will be interested in museum and art and education and children. Marami yan sila, no? But there is a smaller group, no, who know you and care about you, your organization and your cause, no? So dapat inaalagaan natin yan sila because they're closer to your organization, no? And then finally, an even smaller group, no, that is committed to your organization. And hopefully they are comprised of your board, your major donors, your staff, no? Those in the second layer, if you're a school, no, your alumni will be there. In fact, if you look at alumni, there will be alumni who will be closer to you than others. No? Very often, it is the jubilarians who are closest to their institution at the time of their jubilee celebration. No? Pagkatapos na ng jubilarian year nila, wala na naman sila. And then they come back after 5 years. No? So it's important for us to nurture that relationship, no? And to identify these people. Why? People who care about the cause, no? You need to have them select you. No? Kasi they just care about education or they just care about the cause. But you need them to choose you. No? Once they've chosen you, then there's a different message that you want to share with them. It now becomes, we want you to stay with us. We care about you. We want to involve you with the work that we are doing so that they will stay with your organization. And finally, those who are committed to your organization, very specific messages na yan. Ano? Sa board, for example, no, I would really encourage you to ask your board to leave something in their will for your organization. Kasi they're board members. It's very hard to ask somebody who is outside your organization for a bequest, no, or a mana, no, if none of your board members are there, no, meaning none of your board members have committed to do that. So it's important to have a different, different strategy for each of the levels in what we call a constituent or the universe where your organization operates. Okay, so we're gonna do a quick poll, no? And I'm gonna ask you, no, the following questions, no? Geographically, Who do you think gives the most? No, is it the National Capital Region? Is it Northern Luzon? Is it Luzon? Is it Visayas? Or is it Mindanao? So you have five choices: National Capital Region, Luzon, Northern Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. I understand you will have a polling key in front of you. Please put in your votes now.
Okay. Everyone, if the poll hasn't, okay, the poll is supposed to show up. Please click your answer. So, where do you think, which location are people most likely to donate in? Please answer down below, also in the comments. Please let us know. We're very curious. Okay,
Okay,
so most people voted for NCR.
and
Mayan,
that
is
is
that correct?
correct. That is correct. NCR is the place where the highest incidence and the highest amount of giving is recorded. So, small wonder, no? But you might be wondering why Luzon was separated into two, no? Because there is a central Luzon and then there is a northern Luzon. The lowest giving that is recorded in the survey that was done was Balance Luzon or Northern Luzon. No, my father is from there. My husband is from there. I know for a fact, no, that they're kind of kuripot, no, and so I think that also is reflected in their giving. No? Second question, no, who do you think gives more, no, urban or rural? Again, answer the poll that you will see in your screens below.
Okay, so I feel like because we answered NCR, the votes might sway one way, but I don't know. We want to hear your answers. Maybe in your experience, people from more rural areas can be generous since, living in NCR, cost of living is expensive, so on and so forth.
All right.
Okay, so our results are in, and most people voted for urban. Mayan?
All right. Correct. That is correct. Now, this is 74% said urban and you are correct. No? So, that's not to mean that you can't raise money in rural areas. There's just more success in urban areas. And when we talk of urban, we talk about metro cities, we talk about cities. So, each region would have a city center where you can do fundraising. No? Next, our third question: which socio-economic class do you think gives the most? Is it class A, class B, class C? And in the Philippines, we have class D and E, no? The E being the poorest of the poor, and class A is the rich, no? The middle class is class B, no? And then class C is what we call poor, no? So please answer the questions in your screen below, and we'll see if you got the answer right.
In this pandemic, diba, we like to highlight a lot of people who have given, especially if it's like rich people. We feel like they're not required to give. So when they do give a seemingly large amount of money, but not necessarily like proportion to their wealth, we like to applaud them. So I don't know, like I'm very curious to see the results of the poll and to hear Mayan's answer if it actually matches up. That just because they have more, do they actually give more? Yeah. Mayan, for the urban and rural, going back to the previous question. So is it urban? How did we compute this? Was it because of population density or is
Actually,
it, yeah, population
very good
density?
question. Very good question. When the survey was done in partnership with the social weather stations, we wanted to see in terms of the respondents. We asked the question, "Where are you from?" No, and so the respondents had a mix of urban and rural, and so we were able to now tabulate all those who are in the urban areas, which had a higher incidence of giving, versus those who were recorded under rural as having lower. That's not to mean absolute figure, huh? This just means
Mhm.
number of people in urban who donated versus number of people in rural who donated. I think we have the answer
Okay.
already. Wow. All right. So we have class
Oh,
A and B,
Mayan.
84%, no? And class E, 3%. This class is going to flunk, no? And this surprised me. This really surprised me as much as it will surprise you today. In the social weather station survey that was done in partnership with Venture for Fundraising, we saw that it was the class E that gave more in absolute terms, no? Versus those who are class A and B and C. No? So in fact, when this was launched some years back, no, our principal researcher, whose name is Dr. Ned Roberto, said, "Shame on you, middle class people. The poor gives more than you." No? So what does this mean to you as a fundraiser? No? Please do not go only to the usual suspects. No? Kasi the usual suspects is will go to Jaime Augusto Sobel de Ayala, will go to Ramon Ang, no? Aling Nene who sells ukay-ukay in the street corner, we don't go to them. They're not our usual suspects. Well, guess what? No? Class E actually gives more than A and B and C and D. No? So when you come up with a strategy, don't forget those who are in the class E. Again, this is a survey that was conducted with scientific procedures, no? And it yielded class E as the more giving class as opposed to class A and the rest. Here is my next question. Who do you think gives more, men or women? This will be interesting. I'd like to see the results of this. Who do you think gives
Yeah.
more, men or women?
Well, I think this would be also curious because
Yeah.
men and women spend their money in very different ways. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's super interesting to see, their attitudes towards charity. With our discussion with Mayan, she said that, although both donate to charity, there's a different motive behind their usual giving. So while we wait, just to go back to the socioeconomic class. So when we say it's class E, it's quantity, right? It's not proportion.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
quantity.
oh, yes.
Yeah, so ayun, like I feel like we can all give a little more, knowing that the poorest of the poor are willing to give, but maybe those who have a little more may not be as giving. So yeah,
That was very interesting for me, actually. So
yeah,
it was an eye opener for me, and I actually had this kind of experience while working at UNICEF. No, um, we were thinking that people with credit cards, etc. And somebody actually called me at UNICEF to say, "I have no credit card. I have no checking account." I even said, "Oh, I want to drop off my donation at UNICEF. Oh, you can park in the back. There's a parking space there. I don't have a car." I waited for this woman. I waited for this woman who was a public school teacher, no, who gave 500 pesos to UNICEF. And I asked her, "Why did you decide to give to UNICEF?" And she brought the letter that we had sent out, no, and said, UNICEF asked me for a donation and I'm here to give 500 pesos. I felt really, really, uh, I felt that as a fundraiser, this was my source of fulfillment. It's to democratize, no,
Yeah.
giving, because nga, it's only the rich, no, that we ask for donations. We don't ask the poor for donations. So that was interesting for me, no. Okay, all right.
Uh,
Wow, all right. So we have the results of the poll, and you got it right. It is the females who give more than men. We found that females like to give small amounts of money, but frequently. Men like to give large sums of money pero once. So men is one time big time. Women likes the installment, teardrops, no, yung parang hulog, no? When you add it all up, no, women give more than men. So what does this tell you as a fundraiser, no? It's no longer a one size fits all. You don't ask a man and a woman the same way. If it is a man that you are asking money from, you should say, "Can you give me 10,000 pesos today?" One time, big time. If it's a woman, you ask, we'd like to ask you for a contribution of 500 pesos every month for the next 12 months. No? So that's the way to use the information we are providing to you today. No? Because it's important that you customize your fundraising campaigns. Our fifth question, and this is where it's interesting, no? We looked at life stages. No? We looked at the young people. No? We also looked at young urban professionals. Kilala natin to as yuppies, no? We also looked at young marrieds, no? They're called yummies, no? Ito yung mga bagong trabaho, bagong kasal. Yung yuppies, bagong trabaho, walang asawa, no? Wala pang partner, no? At saka meron tayo yung tinatawag na mature adults. Medyo senior na ang mga taong to. Who do you think gives more? The young yuppies, the young marrieds, or the mature adults or senior citizens? Let's do the poll now. No?
okay. Mayan, we have a question somewhere
Mhm.
here in the comments about, again, the socioeconomic class, which I guess like really just blew us away, the answer. If class E, are we not rubbing salt on their wounds already?
All right. Now, we're not, in fundraising, what I found to be very important, no, is to send the right messages to the right person at the right time. All right. You will see, for example, that even during calamities, the poor, no, give to a community that is in the other side of the fence, no, or a nearby community. No? So I'm not suggesting that you ask all the poor people, no, you customize your pitch, no, you say the right message to a group of people. For example, no, a group of farmers will give part of their harvest, no, to an organization called the Philippine Agrarian Reform Foundation. Bakit? Because they know that if they help this foundation, it will also help them. No? So poor, ang classification ng farmers sa Pilipinas, no, is poorest of the poor. They're subsistence farmers, no? And I've seen this also in some of the schools that I've raised money for, no? I've seen that one donor in particular in one school is the taga-benta ng barbecue sa cafeteria. No? And ako, I was so surprised when I was told that she had given a large sum of money to this school, no, to actually build a new parang center, no. It's a place where the students will converge, no. It's parang cafeteria, tapos pa getting the students together. But she would not have been in our list of prospective donors. She would have been somewhere outside. No? So it was really interesting for me to see that. No? And also at UNICEF, where we saw that many of our donors aren't the rich and famous. Many of our donors were actually ordinary people. Many of them were poor. Check out the churches also. Next time you go to Quiapo Church, next time you go to a church, see who is putting a barya in the basket, no? Ito ba yung medyo maganda yung suot? O yung ayaw niyong i-peace be with you sa katabi ninyo, no? So very important that we look at this as options, no? Or potential prospects, no? For your organization. All right. We have the results of age and work. And again, You got it right. No? Mature adults give more, no? More often and more in terms of amount. Which means when you are going to come up with your brochure, wag yung masyadong maliit yung fonts, no? Because mahirapan na kaming magbasa. Ako, I cannot read anymore without my glasses, di ba? Eh, mature adult. If you're going to give me a website na lumilipad marami, no? I'll have a migraine, no? So it's important for us to think who your donors are and make your materials match the donors, no? Because, no, ang mga kabataan gusto nila yung medyo it's medyo ano to? Parang ano siya, kailangan bibo, no? Or kailangan medyo high-end, no? Pero yung mature adults, they actually want simple messages. They want compassion, no? They want compelling story, etc. No? So you should always think of your audience in developing your materials. Now, you will notice also, and I think you have it right also, no? Ang yuppies, mababa magbigay. But they like to participate in mga fun runs, etc. So kung may fun run kayo, si yuppies ang sulatan ninyo, no? Yung young marrieds, and again, you are right, they actually disappear from the giving map. Bakit? No? They disappear from the giving map because my money and my son go to this exclusive school, 'di ba? I'm also paying for my mortgage sa kotse, my mortgage sa bahay, no? And we're also seeing that they're starting up as a family, etc. No? So they disappear, no? Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep them informed anymore, no? It simply means that they want to give, they just don't have disposable income to give to you today, no? I suggest that you continue writing to them, no? You continue updating them kahit na hindi sila nagbigay ng 2, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, no? Just keep them updated. Just give them, whatever donation mechanism that you would give to all the others that you would write to, no? Because pagka ang mga anak nila mag-graduate na, nabayaran na nila yung mortgage nila, matatandaan nila, alam mo, itong organization na to continues to update me, no? And I'm going to give them today, no? Kasi ngayon, medyo mas libre na ang aking income, no? So, it's this I guess this strategy or this data, no, allows you to customize your asking or your fundraiser. Now, many of your organizations will probably have different organization, no? Very different ang tawag nito, audience, no? So you need to establish sino yung audience niyo. All right. Next poll. No? Next poll natin. No? Marami tayong ginagamit na fundraising strategies. Merong special events, meron door-to-door, meron church collection, may face-to-face, may raffle, etc. No? Let's do a poll. Which of the 4 that you see on the screen now is the highest or the best way to raise money? No? Is it events? Is it door-to-door? Is it church collection? Or is it face-to-face? Let's vote now.
Okay, so which do you think is the most effective way to raise money, guys? Do you think it's, putting up these really like big events with catering and all that jazz? Is it asking door to door? So that means you go from house to house, approach them one by one. Do you think it's a church collection where it's like you have a regular event, then you kind of throw your question or you asking for money out there, or is it like face to face, you meet someone and you're like, hello? Mine is face to face, what you would call those booths at the mall where they ask you to contribute to a cause.
Yes. Or actually meeting somebody and asking them for a donation is also face to face, no? So it's a combination of both. So for this poll, the strategy is meeting people and asking them for a gift.
Okay.
Ikaw ba,
Okay.
you've been asked already in a mall? How
Well,
many times have you been approached in the mall?
not very often because when I was in college and when I used to go to malls, I look very young. So
All
they
right.
automatically assume that I'm like in high school, even though I was in civilian. So it's very difficult to ask me. Okay, so Maya, the votes
All
are in.
right.
63% events. What a landslide. Is this the correct answer?
All right. Let's look at the next slide. Okay. Asan ang special events dyan?
Mm,
Special events is in the middle, no? In
yeah.
fact, yung second collection at church ranks higher than fundraising events, no? Fundraising events actually, no, you can spend up to $1 or a peso to raise 50 centavos, no? Kasi nga mahal ang events. Hindi ka naman pwede mag-event na hindi ka nagre-reserve sa hotel, 'di ba? Eh ang hotel hindi ka naman papayagan kung wala kang down payment, no? So wala ka pang kukuha, you're already investing in that, no? So it's very risky, it is labor intensive, and unfortunately, no, more and more, especially in light of COVID, no, special events are going to be a challenge moving forward, no. So if you look at this, no, second collection is actually high in the list, no. Asan yung door-to-door natin? Nasa baba, no? Si house-to-house solicitation, nasa baba. Yung solicitation in public places, as you mentioned earlier, yung sa mall, no? Nasa baba siya, no? So, but look at the number one, no? In the successful strategy. The number one strategy in fundraising is solicitation by a friend or a relative. Di ba kung magpa-fundraising tayo, sino yung una nating pupuntahan? Una natin pupuntahan yung ating kapatid, magulang, tiyahin, tiyuhin, pinsan, no, kamag-anak, no? Tapos isipin natin, sino pa ba yung nasa phone ko, no? There are friends, no? For example, oh, may kaibigan ako sa Coca-Cola. Hahanapin ko yung kaibigan ko sa Coca-Cola, tapos yung kaibigan ko, tuturuan ako paano mag-raise ng pera sa Coca-Cola. No? So I will go back to my first slide, which is really, it's all about friends. No? And so in the successful strategies, it is still soliciting to a friend or relative that is number one. In the Philippines, kasi religious tayo, no, second collection in church, no, is number two. In fact, there are some churches in Metro Manila, Green Hills, no, and Christ the King Church in Green Meadows, no, they reported, no, in one Sunday second collection in the church, no, they were able to raise 180,000 pesos. That is one church in one day, no, one second collection. Kaya nga ngayon, medyo na ano na rin yung mga pare, no, na ayaw na nilang magpumayag ng second collection, no? So, it's important na malaman ninyo itong mga strategies. Look at the number 3, no? Walk-in donation. Now, think about your office. If somebody were to go to your office today, no, and say, I want to make a donation, kamusta yung mga gwardiya nyo? Kamusta yung mga parking, yung mga pumapayag mag-park? Sasabihin, ay, bawal ho dito mag-park kasi boss lang ang pwede mag-park dito. Ay, wala ho dito si ganyan. Pumalik na lang kayo bukas. Yung operator, yung sumasagot ng telepono ninyo, kapag may magtanong, pwede ho ba ako pumunta dyan para mag-donate? Sasabihin ng operator, I will patch you through to ganyan-ganyan. Tapos pag-patch doon, line is busy or inbox is full. So walk-in donation, you'll see is number 3. Are you ready for walk-in donations? No? So you need to prepare for that walk-in donation. Payroll deduction, no? Lalo na ngayon that everybody's working from home, no? Make it easy for them to give to you, no? And payroll deduction is actually one of those that happens quite a lot, no? So hindi yan, Accenture has done that, Johnson and Johnson has done that, no? So you're not asking the company for money, you're asking the employees of the company to donate to you. All right? So, that's not to say na hindi kayo dapat mag-events, no? I'm just saying that you should have a combination of strategies because not everybody likes events. May iba na mas gusto walk-in donation. May iba gusto payroll donation. All right? So, we'll move to the next. Okay. Pag tingnan natin, no, ang gift na binibigay, no, ng mga tao, no, mga Pinoy, no, this is Philippines, no. We looked at non-profit, churches, and government, no. Sa NCR, ang average gift, no, ng Pinoy sa NCR is 1,370. So kung magkakaroon kayo ng special event sa NCR, huwag yung presyohing 500 pesos yung inyong ticket. Kasi meron na kayong survey na nagsasabi ang Pinoy na nakatira sa NCR willing magbayad ng 1,300. No? So dapat ganon yung inyong sum, no? Nahihingin, no? Kapag humingi kayo ng donation. Pagka nasa Balance Luzon kayo, nasa Tuguegarao kayo, nasa Ilocos kayo, sa Benguet kayo, huwag kayo mag 1,000. Kasi ang average gift sa Balance Luzon is 67 pesos. No? So kailangan tayo dyan, pang 50 pesos ang hihingin natin or 75 pesos. Sa Visayas, 109 pesos. No? So again, different areas, different amounts ang hihingin natin. Sa Mindanao, we're looking at 186. No? So, mas mataas pa ang Mindanao kaysa sa Visayas in terms of giving. Now, if any of you are from government, ito naman ang giving sa government. No? 60 pesos sa NCR. Balance Luzon, ang taas kapag gobyerno kayo, 131 pesos. Sa Visayas is the lowest, no, at 34. And then Mindanao is 100 plus. Now, this is a dated survey. No, I was telling our friends from the organizers, no, that it's very expensive to come up with a survey. No, social weather stations, no, it cost us a lot at Venture, no, to contract them to do this, no. But I feel, no, that this has not changed much, no. This is probably a good barometer for you to use whenever you do fundraising for your organizations. Next slide. All right. So, ano ba yung gustong bigyan ng mga tao, no? Yung Pinoy, no? What do they like to give to, no? And this really is, I don't know if you remember this, no? But some years ago, no, there was this picture of a young boy doing his homework outside a McDonald's, no? This went viral, no? I mean, it went so quickly na feature pa to sa Inquirer, etc., etc. Pati McDonald's went into the discussion, no? So much so that within a few months, he was able to get enough money to fund his education, no? I don't have the exact figure yet, no? But apparently, no, hindi na siya ngayon kailangan doon sa labas ng McDonald's gumawa ng homework niya, kung saan, no, nandoon yung may ilaw, no? So, what do we do? Sorry, top 10 causes, no? Ang ano natin, no? So, meron tayong number 1, which is education. So, when it is education ang inyong ginagawa, no? Malamang bibigyan kayo ng pera. Number 2, kapag you are working with street children, orphans, no? Number 2 yan. So, medyo mataas ang ranking nyo. Women is number 3, prostitution is number 4, and all the way down, no, to housing for the poor, which is number 10. So what do you do? Kung kunwari housing for the poor kayo, no? Kung yan ang inyong advocacy, no? Ang kailangan na message ninyo is about how providing houses for the poor, no, will allow the children, no, to take their classes more regularly or do their homework more conveniently, no? So i-relate natin yan siya sa number 1 at saka sa number 2, no? So don't talk about building 4 walls, putting a roof, no? Kasi hindi siya nagre-resonate sa Pinoy, no? Nagre-resonate sa Pinoy if pinag-uusapan natin kabataan. Nagre-resonate sa Pinoy kapag we're talking about children, no? So that's important for you to understand, no? Especially if you're working for museums. Naku, no one there, no? In our survey, no one actually answered that they would give to a museum, no? Pero kasi ang museum binibisita ng bata. Ang museum binibisita ng bata as an aid to education, diba? So don't talk about the 4 walls of the museum. Talk about the children who visit the museum. talk about the education that happens in the museum in order for people to give to you. No? So that's how you use the data we have here on your screens today. Okay. So, iwanan muna natin yung mga ordinaryong tao, no? Tingnan naman natin yung mga medyo may kaya, no? Yung mga may kaya, no, yung mga rich, no, nasa class A, class B, class up to class B, no. Often when we ask them for a donation, no, we need to understand ano ba yung nagmo-motivate sa kanila, no. Merong mga donors, no, na communitarian sila, no. They do good because it makes good sense, no. Usually it is in relation to a community where they belong, no. Kung taga Tacloban siya, magbibigay siya sa Tacloban. Kung taga Nueva Ecija siya, magbibigay siya sa Nueva Ecija because it makes good sense, no. So tawag diyan communitarian. Pangalawa, devout, no. Nagbigay siya kasi it is God's will. Pangatlo, mahusay ito sa negosyo kung magbigay ako. Si socialite, no, doing good is fun. No, yan yung kanyang gusto, no? Gusto niyang magbigay kasi ano siya nakakatuwa, no? Ang giving, no? Repayer, no? Nakinabang siya from one advocacy, he wants to give back to the same advocacy, no? Kung kunwari alumni, no, naging magaling siya na engineer kasi nag-aral siya sa Mapua. Therefore, mabibigay siya sa Mapua kasi giving back siya. Altruist, ito yung talagang pure giving. Walang reason except that it is the right thing to do. No? And then finally, yung Dinas is a family tradition. Now, let's look at the picture sa taas. Kilala niyo ba kung sino sila? No? So the first gentleman to the left, no, I hope you know him. No, he has passed away, but he's a dear mentor. No, his name is Mr. Washington Sisip of the SGV fame. No, so si Mr. Sisip, no, was a donor for many years. No, and even at the time of his death, many organizations continued to benefit from his giving. The second picture is ang ating Miss Universe. I think she's the first Miss Universe, no? Si Margie Moran is Miss Universe, no? So she's the second picture. The third picture, I hope you know her, no? She passed away recently, no? Her name is Gina Lopez of the Lopez family, no? Bantay Bata, etc. No? So si Gina Lopez. I am sure you know this picture, no? His name is, he goes by the initial MVP, no? Manny V. Pangilinan. Siyempre, the next picture needs no introduction, si Kamao, no? Si Manny Pacquiao. The next picture is a lady, her name is Loida Nicolas Lewis, who is married to an American, no? And started to give back to Philippines, no? Kasi Pinay siya, no? So, si Loida Nicolas Lewis. And the last photo we have is syempre, making waves right now, no, because of the huge amount of money that he has given to support the work, no, related to COVID. So we'll do a little quick poll, no. Sino sa palagay nyo ang socialite? Si Margie ba? Si Gina ba? Or si Loida? Let's do our poll now.
Okay, interesting that when we say socialite, we immediately think about a woman with makeup and nice hair. So
true,
interesting to see. So who do you think like sets up events because it's fun, because it's a way to meet other people, to get social, as the name would suggest. So yeah, please vote down below. We're very curious to see who do you think is most likely to throw an event to raise money. Is it Margie Moran, Gina Lopez, or Loida Nicolas Lewis? So,
actually, alam mo, wala dyan si Mr. Sisip, no? Because si Mr. Sisip, no, he's actually a repayer, no? Si Mr. Sisip is actually a product of the public school system. So much of his giving, no, was dedicated to education and improving the public school system. All right, we have the numbers and you got it right, no? It is Margie Moran who is the socialite, no? So I need to improve this slide because I'd like to have a man there na pwede niyong suspetsahan na socialite siya. Ang socialite, no, usually, no, they use their network in order to raise money for a cause, no? So si Margie has raised money for Miriam College because she's a Marinoler. She's also raised money for CCP. She's also raised money for Davao, no, using yung kanilang shawl. She's also raised money for, saan pa ba siya? Habitat for Humanity, no? So Margie Moran uses her network to get other people to donate to the organization. All right? All right, let's look at the next slide. Sino naman ang dynast? Nako, nagkamali ako. Dapat pala hindi ko sinabi si Mr. Sisip was repair. So hindi na siya in the running sa Dynast. So sino kaya ang Dynast dito sa tatlo? No? Aside from Mr. Sisip, no? Is it Gina Lopez or is it Ramon Ang? No? Let's vote now and let's see who that is. So I mentioned earlier, no, na si Mr. Sisip is so ano na yan, bonus, no? Si Mr. Sisip likes giving to public school. Sabi niya nga, kung ma-improve natin ang public school education sa Pilipinas, the Philippines will prosper, no? Unfortunately, what he has seen in the public school, no? Pasok ka ng public school, dehado ka na, no? Because there are no facilities, there are no there's a shortage of teachers. I mean, shortage of classrooms. No, so he really wanted to help the public school system so much so that he partnered, no, even with Card MRI for a funding that was related to education, para siyang microfinance for education. No, so actually from the previous slide, no, we also saw Loida Nicolas Lewis. All right. Wow, neck and neck, no?
Wow, split.
Wow, it is a split, no? Syempre, kasi na-reveal natin si Mr. Sisip, no? So, Gina Lopez wins by a very, very small margin to Ramon Ang. Actually po, you're right, it is Gina Lopez because Gina is part of the Lopez family whose tradition of giving, no, did not start with Gina. Pati lolo ni Gina nagbigay. Tatay ni Gina, tsuhin ni Gina, pinsan ni Gina, all of the entire family, no, the dynasty, no, is into the habit of giving back to community. No? So it is Gina, and you are correct. Si Ramon Ang, no, which was the second choice, got 43%, no, only 3% less than Gina. No, so that's very interesting. Next slide. Who is the devout? This should be easy, no? Is it Manny Pangilinan? Is it Manny Pacquiao? Or is it Ramon Ang? Let's do the poll now.
Maya, and I found it really interesting that in the past two Guess Who slides, they use their network. So these are their friends and their family. Similar to the slide that you showed us earlier, who is most willing to give? It's not strangers, it's your friends and family. So if you have rich friends and family, then by all means, diba?
Yeah, that's so correct, no? And that's why ako, whenever I attend seminars, I attend conferences, lahat ng business cards, diba? Syempre, they keep sending it to you, etc. That should go somewhere. That shouldn't go into a box in your, no? Put it in an Excel chart, no? Or put it somewhere, no? Where you can actually send them letters, no? I'm sure you have a lot of that stashed away somewhere. Next time you attend a conference and they give you the list of participants, put them in an Excel chart, no? Next time you go on a tour, no, and you have companions there, put them in an Excel chart so that you start forming your database, no? Yung mga kaklase ninyo, lagay nyo dyan din, no? So that would be part of your friend generation, no, mechanism. All right. Obvious ba? Diba? Alright. So Manny Pacquiao wins by a landslide. No, 73% said it is Manny Pacquiao. And it is so obvious, no? Whenever he
Yeah.
speaks, whenever he's interviewed, no, he cites a Bible phrase, etc. So if you're gonna go to Manny Pacquiao and ask him for money, no, don't say, alam mo, we're into sports kasi we want to make sure that the Philippine athlete, kaya sa kanya hindi yun nagre-resonate. Nagre-resonate sa kanya halimbawa if there was a Bible passage that would talk about sports, no, or something, no. So we need to kind of target yung predisposition ng mga tao, no. So Manny Pangilinan, no, there's nothing wrong with this, no. This is my personal assessment, no. So if you quote me, please say that it is my personal assessment, no. This is not something that you find in books, no. But by my assessment, no, money's giving, no, is really related to business, no. Because you will see that much of what he is doing, no, is either related to Smart, related to Meralco, no, related to the core business of the MVP group. There's nothing wrong with that, no. Really, it just means that whenever we go to Manny Pangilinan, no, that is what we will position, no. That is how we will position our ask. In terms of Ramon Ang, no, we have in our discussion earlier, no, when we were rehearsing for this conference, no, we said with COVID, Ramon Ang is actually altruist, no? Because wala na siyang pakialam sa negosyo niya. Gusto lang talaga niya tumulong, no? And this is really seen in the large sum of money that he has made available for COVID, no? And it hasn't stopped. It hasn't stopped. He continues to give, no? Today, no? From making parang ano, ang dami niyang binigay, pati mga vaccines, pati mga PPE, no? In fact, in a report that I saw some weeks back, no, it was already more than 1.6 billion pesos ang binigay ni Ramon Ang. So we felt, no, that in this COVID period, no, Ramon Ang became, no, an altruist, no. So you might be wondering, sino kaya yung communitarian, no? Si Loida Nicolas Lewis is the communitarian because taga Bicol po siya. Much of her giving is for Bicol. So kung any of you are from that area, no, from the Bicol area, no, when you make a pitch, no, to Loida Nicolas Lewis, it should be about Bicol kasi that is her predisposition to give, no. So it's important for you to know who gives, why people give, and who they give to, no, what they give to also. Now, when we look at the private sector, no, lalo na yung mga korporasyon, no, they have reasons why they give also. So kung kanina it was the person, no, ito naman yung mga kumpanya or the corporations, no. And there are five reasons, no. The first one is the social license to operate, no. Second one is they want to retain their employees. The third is compliance. The fourth is mileage. And the fifth is financial gains. Ano ba itong social license to operate? Yung social license to operate is yung, kumbaga, gusto nila na yung community where they are, no, will see them as friends, no? Kunwari, meron silang factory dyan, no? So they want to make sure that the community understands that they're there, no, to help them out, no. So para din maging mabait sa kanila yung community, no. So for example, Johnson and Johnson, no, gives to Barangay Edison, no, kasi doon yung kanilang headquarters, no. And you know, wala silang produkto na related to basketball halimbawa, no, but they will give to a basketball court, no, because they feel that by investing in the community where their headquarters are, the community will be kinder to them. It will be safer for the employees, no, to walk from the jeepney stop to the office, no, in Barangay Edison. So they need to have a license, a social license to operate, no. So yun yung una. The second is retain employees, no. Lalo na for millennials, no. Millennials, whenever they go to work for a corporation, they kind of look at, okay, aside from profit, ano yung purpose ng company na to. So corporations who want to retain their employees, they come up with programs that will show that there is a higher purpose than profit, no, for the corporation. So retain employees. Pangatlo, compliance. May mga batas, no, that requires companies to give. For example, you are a geothermal plant or you're a power producing plant, no? By law, no, you are supposed to give a certain amount of peso, no, certain amount for every kilowatt hour generated from your plants. All right? So ikaw, company, no, kung kunwari yung planta mo nasa Bohol, no, kailangan magbigay ka ng certain amount of money to that community kasi provided for by law. Yan, no? Meron din sa housing, no, kapag developer ka, kapag may condominium ka, no, meron silang mga laws, no, or policies, no, that allow corporations who are in the business of selling condos and buildings, etc., to have something like a tax exemption, no, or something like a benefit, no, if they are able to establish socialized housing. No? So meron ding mga batas, no, that requires companies to give, no. So medyo forced giving yan. So it's important to find out kung sino yung mga kumpanyang kailangan talaga magbigay as a requirement, no. Mileage, ito yung I feel, no, that this is the pinakamababaw pinakamababaw na reason why corporations give. Wala lang, foggy points, 'di ba? I want to have my banner out there. I want to have my logo there, no? It's really traditional giving ito, no? So, yung mileage na yan, it just tells people na, oh, mabait ito kasi nagbigay siya sa ganyan, no? So, yun yung mga may picture sa dyaryo, nagbibigay ng cheque, no? Again, there's nothing wrong with this, no? It's just that you need to understand ano yung nagmo-motivate doon sa company to give, no? Siyempre, the fifth one is financial gains, no? Merong tax exemption. It really has an impact on the business of the corporation, no? What they pay. So kung may tax exemption, cheaper services, halimbawa ang Jollibee, no? They have partnered with the dairy association so that the dairy association will produce mozzarella, no? Or yung mga local farmers para yung kanilang lechugas manggagaling doon, no? So I'm not I don't think it is because it is cheaper, no? Ang actually tawag ata nila doon is jollifying communities, no? They want to engage the communities in the big business of Jollibee. So by helping the community, no, they're able to, help the Jollibee at the same time nagiging prosperous yung communities, no? Aside from that, no, if these are listed companies, particularly those with US and international operations, no, ang mga stockholders, yung bumibili ng stocks, no, at saka yung may mga malaking portfolio, no, they expect that companies actually invest in purpose, no, or development, no. So for those that operate internationally, no, this is an important feature of their giving, no. Kasi yung investors hinahanap din yan. So, before you approach a company, no, find out anong ita-target nyo dyan. Is it a compliance? If it's a compliance strategy, then dapat yung pitch ninyo, it talks about the law. If it's retention ng employees, dapat pag-usapan nyo retention ng employees. Lalo na yung mga kumpanya na maraming millennials. Sino to? Call centers, no? Marami dyan mga bata. No? So if they want to retain their young employees, then you can come up with a strategy to retain their employees. All right. Next slide. Okay. So itong COVID na to, no? What has happened is it kind of made things a little different, no, for organizations that are doing fundraising. Now, this is not based on any study, no. This is based on anecdotes, no. I have been consulting for a number of months already. I've gone back to consulting, no, and I have seen this, no. So these are my personal reflections, no, about fundraising during COVID. So, una, no, there is, syempre ang uso ngayon is COVID. Diba? So, lahat ng giving nangyayari related to COVID, no? So, health, livelihood, kasi marami nung na-lockdown, diba? Hindi sila nakapagtrabaho. Education, lalo na it's enrollment today, no? So, naging siya, kumbaga, favorite cause siya. Relief, no? Yung mga taong hindi nagkaroon ng trabaho, everybody from the tricycle driver to the jeepney drivers who could not ply their routes, no? Nagkaroon lang tayo ng parang basket of, relief to give to them. No? So it became the predominant cause ngayon. No? If you were to raise money for museums today, you're not going to get anything. Zilch. Hindi kayo uso ngayon. In fact, they will think you are being insensitive to the needs of people, no? Kasi ang kasalukuyang, the need today, the urgent need today is to address COVID, no? Now, corporations, no? Siyempre, nag-increase ang giving nila for the pandemic. You've seen it, no? Ayalas, Ortigas, Gokong Ways, so many of these corporations have given, no? Because of the pandemic, no? Kailangan, no, for some corporations, inasikaso muna nila yung sarili nila, yung kanilang mga empleyado, no? Kasi nga, if they give, no, and wala naman silang sustainability as a company, no, wala silang pansweldo sa mga empleyado nila, they will find themselves without a business. No? So they started to look inwards also, no? So it's a reasonable strategy for corporations, no, to look inwards during this time of pandemic, also not knowing when the economy is going to pick up again, no. So because of that, no, hindi nga nagkaroon ng benta over the past, very little construction, no. So ang income ng corporations went down. Now giving is always a function of income. The more income a company has, the more giving it will do. So the lower the income, the lower the giving as well, no? So again, anecdotes. These are anecdotes, and I'm sure you will see it, no, as you look at the newspapers. Ang governments, no, even bilaterals, no, medyo a lot of their giving has gone into pandemics, no, the pandemic. So maski yung government infrastructure program, pinos yan para magkaroon tayo ng pondo para sa social amelioration, no? And so parang there's a pivot, no, in government spending, no, from infrastructure to the pandemic. So there's less money for government to support, no, kasi meron namang suporta ang gobyerno sa mga non-profit work in the past, no? So I think it's just slowing down now, no? Funding institutions, if you're gonna go to UNICEF, if you're gonna go to JICA, etc., no, ang focus nila ngayon related pa rin sa COVID, no? In fact, many of them are investing or putting money into the vaccine, no? So para makakuha tayo ng vaccine sa COVID, no? Individuals, no? Syempre, marami nawalan ng trabaho, no? Marami nawalan ng negosyo, no? Magkakaroon siya ng decrease, no? Simply because affordability, no, hindi nila kayang magbigay. However, no, nakikita mo pa rin na may mga kwento of generosity, no? Yung mga nagbibigay ng pagkain sa PGH, no? Mga individuals na nagbibigay ng pagkain sa mga ospital, sa mga frontline workers. You will see also people with cars ferrying frontline workers, no? And so you still see that level of generosity, no? Pero, no, in terms of data, no, because salaries have gone down, or at least money not coming into income, no, coming into individuals has gone down, no, there's also an impact to their giving, no. So that's something that has happened. Now the other thing that has happened also for individuals is that may namatayan sila, no, dahil namatayan sila, parang naisip nila, instead of flowers, I will give it to research for here. Kasi nga, nawala ng weight, di ba? So you'll see that even if namatay si Mr. Kawangko, marami kayong makikita in lieu of flowers, no, please give to this, to PGH, or give to ganyan, no? Because people became more aware of their mortality, no, which made, parang opened up, or at least accentuated another avenue for giving for these individuals. Some of them want to honor people who have passed away because of COVID, no? And so those are things, no, that we've observed, factors that we should consider, no, as we go out and start fundraising in the coming months. All right. So basically, bumaba ang non-health fundraising concerns, no? Kapag wala kayong kinalaman sa COVID, medyo bumaba ang giving dyan. In terms of fundraising strategies, hindi tayo pwede makapag-event ngayon. Kasi nga, bawal, di ba? Yung face-to-face sa mall, nothing is happening in the malls today because nga, the situation is, walang foot traffic, no, sa mga malls. Ano yung umakyat? Digital fundraising. Digital events, like this conference, no? email newsletters, webinars, online payment platform. Kung ang inyong giving ay kailangan pa rin pumunta sa bangko, you've lost them. Because there are so many people who do not want to go to the bank. Kailangan meron kayong online facility or may QR code kayo or pwede kayong tumanggap ng online donations. Because ito po ang, I guess, the thing, no? The things that we need to prepare for, no? In the COVID situation. Alright. So, ano yung mga pwede nating gawing? Dati kasi lahat tayo on-site, di ba? On-site yung programa natin, on-site yung payment natin, on-site yung promotions natin, pati yung produkto natin, kailangan pumunta ka sa tindahan. Well, because of COVID, naging online everything. Online programming, online payments, online promotions, no? Online presence, online products, no? Which makes this last bullet very, very important. No? This bullet of data management. No? It is that Excel chart that that Excel table that I mentioned earlier, yun po yung data nyo. No? Now, how you manage that data is really the fundraising strategy. So let's just say you have, 100 names. What are you going to do with those names? Right? Are you going to send them a newsletter? Are you going to send them an email blast? How are you going to ask them for a gift? No? Ilan dyan ang babae? Ilan dyan ang lalaki? Kita natin kanina na iba magbigay ang lalaki, iba magbigay ang babae. No? So it's important for you to manage that data. No? Because if you don't manage that data, no, you will not be sending the right messages to the right person at the right time. No? So it is moving from on-site to online. And so my suggestion to you is you need to pivot now. Kung wala pa kayong online, no? Start doing it now. Ang daming fintech solutions right now, ang daming crowdfunding solutions that are available right now. Move, no? Move today, prepare today. Because even if we are able to lick COVID in the next few months, this will stay. This will remain. COVID only made it faster, no? Ang switch natin from on-site to online. No? So that's important for you to understand also. No? All right. So how do you plan for your fundraising? No? What do you do? No? So una, kaya nyo ba mag-fundraising? Baka naman iisang tao lang kayo tapos gusto nyo mag-raise ng 10 million. I'll tell you now, hindi nyo po kaya yan mag-isa. No? Magkano ba yung gusto nyo? No? Determine your target. No? Raising 1 million is very different from raising 5 million, from raising 1 billion pesos. No? Who are your donors? No? Hindi pwedeng tatatlo lang yan or lilima lang yan sila. Fourth, how do you say? No? How do you communicate what it is you do? No? 5, ano ba ang strategy ninyo to raise money ngayon? You cannot do a special event. So what do you do? No? And then, that's the only time you will prepare an action plan. Kapag alam nyo na kung magkano, sino ang hihinga ninyo, paano nyo sila hihingan. That's the only time you plan. Kadalasan kasi we start with, I want to make a special event. Without thinking, magkano ba ang kailangan natin? Sino ba ang kakausapin natin? And on and on. Alright. So, if you want to raise 5 million pesos, no, this is what I call my reality chart. If I want to raise 5 million pesos, I need to talk to 3,005 people so that 601 can give to me. All right? What does this mean? No? Hindi naman lahat po ng tao na kakausapin nyo mag-oo. No? So, usually, no, ako as a fundraiser, no, I do a 10% lead gift, no. For me to know, to assess, no, if 5 million is reasonable at saka realistic for me, no, I put a top gift of 500,000. Kung meron akong kilalang donor na pwedeng magbigay sa akin ng 500,000 pesos, then 5 million is a reasonable target for me. So this table is going to show you the various gift levels on the first column, the number of gifts you need per gift level, and then the number of prospects you need to talk to. No? So ang ginawa ko, no, is that 20% batting average. Ibig sabihin, kung 5 ang kausap nyo, 4 will say no. Pag 10 ang kausap nyo, 8 will say no. No? So only 20% will say yes. No? So if you want one person, one company to give you 500,000, you need to talk to 5 corporations or individuals. If you want 200 individuals or 200 people to give you 500 pesos, you need to talk to 1,000 people. No? Kasi hindi lahat sila mag-yes. No? Something to think about. No? So, anong basic message? Not everyone you ask will say yes. Put simply. No? Now, if you have a strong database, kung yung database ninyo ay talagang very giving and very committed to your fund, you will see that your 20% success rate will go higher. No? You'll only need to talk to 3 people kasi talagang committed sila. No? So it's important for you to ask more people because it's a numbers game. So if you ask 5,000 people and you get 20% of 5,000 people, that's 1,000 people to give you. Simple lang, diba? So it's an Excel chart. At the end of the day, you want to fulfill this universe, no? You want people who care about your organization to come into your organization, know about your organization, and actually care about your organization so that they become committed to your organization over time. No? So that's the journey, no? The fundraising, the donor's journey in your organization. Okay. So, pagka may kausap kayo, no, sana hindi provided for by executive order number ganyan-ganyan or pursuant to the provision of the Department of Education. Hindi ganoon, di ba? Kailangan talaga compelling yung story. It's inspiring. It is memorable. It is positive. No? It should be short and direct. Yung mga 20 pages, hindi na yan babasahin. In fact, yung first paragraph ng sulat ninyo is the one that is going to make or break it. And which is why we go back to this little photo, no, that we showed you earlier today, no. This photo, no, is so compelling, no. Yung kwento niya napaka kurot sa no, kurot sa puso, no. And which is why people gave because they saw this. Unang-una bata, pangalawa education. Pangatlo, street child pa, kasi tingnan nyo, kalye, di ba? So, yung top 3 natin, no, nandyan sa picture na yan, no? So, syempre, McDonald's, no, nag-ride sila dyan, no? So, very important that we have compelling stories, no? You need to master the art of telling stories that are compelling, no? So, more than anything else, ito po yung dapat nating matutunan. Right. So, how will you reach your donors? No? So, alam nyo na kung sinong hihingan ninyo. No? So, I'm going to give you some examples, no, so that you can more or less, it's a menu. No? I'm not suggesting that you should do all of this, no, but just to give you an idea of what other organizations have raised using those strategies. So, the first strategy that we have, okay, Philippine Science High School Foundation raised 500,000 pesos from a special event, no, where they sold artwork that was made by Joven Ignacio. No? They also came up with greeting cards, no, using the paintings of Mr. Ignacio, and they sold it to the friends of the Pisay family. No? Now, Philippine Science High School Foundation is a relatively unknown foundation. No? It's a small group. No? I think their class size is parang basta maliit ang class size nila, no? But they needed to raise money so that they could improve the facilities in the campus, no? And so they thought of this, no? And they were able to raise 500,000 pesos, no? Not a bad strategy for a small school such as Pisay. And a government school at that, no? Kasi ang Pisay is a DOST institution, no? So next slide. Ito, no, Philippine Tatler, no, Philippine Tatler, no, every year meron yan silang charity ball, no. So sometimes it is WWF, at one point it was WWF. Another time it was ABS-CBN, Lingkod Kapamilya Foundation, Bantay Bata, no. Another time it was the Red Cross, no. And so if your board members or if you know somebody who is with the Tatler, no, Philippine Tatler, no, then maybe you can reach out to them because they donate, I was told, no, more than 1 million pesos to their beneficiary organization. No? So, it's a ball. No? So, beneficiary yung inyong organization or yung inyong cause. Next. We have also, ito, no? Children's Hour, no, a small an organization that was raising money for children was able to report an income of 4 million pesos in one event. No, this was a luncheon, no, that they do every year. No, they had Between Escalante singing, they had Jaime Augusto Sobel, no, sponsoring the venue. They had the Chef King, no, doing the food, no, and then they had performers like Between Escalante. So dahil nga lahat libre, no, their gross was their net kasi wala na silang ginastos, no. So something that you can also think about. Of course, if you look at Children's Hour and their board, no, medyo well connected sila, no. So they use their board in order to come up with an event na mababa ang cost so that all the money that they raise is actually going to go to programs that Children's Hour supports. We have the next slide. All right. I like this example because baka sabihin niya, kasi naman, Children's Hour, connected yan kay Jaza, no? Kay Hana Augusto Sobel. Look at this organization. It's a Philippine Agrarian Reform Foundation. Way back, no? They did a Christmas caroling here in Manila, no? Galing silang Mindanao, pumunta sila dito sa Manila. Kasama nila yung datu na nandyan sa right picture, no? Look at how much they earned. In 1 year, through Christmas caroling, 1.5 million pesos. No? So it's very interesting. They put a spin to the Christmas caroling. No? So before mag-start yung Christmas caroling, may gagawing seremonya yung datu. No? And then the children were wearing their native costumes. No? And so this organization is actually for the benefit of farmers. Ito yung binanggit ko sa inyo kanina. No? Which is why, no, it was so successful. No? Now, they do not do this anymore, only because medyo mataas po ang labor. No? Meaning to say, it's labor intensive to be doing these events for the organization. But I just want to show you, no, that it is possible for a small organization, if they plan it right, no, to raise 1.5 million pesos from such a common fundraiser as Christmas caroling. No? So, nagbigay lang sila ng spin to the Christmas caroling. All right. Okay. Kilala nyo to, no? Si Pondo ng Pinoy, no? Many of you probably were in school nung require kayo maglagay ng 25 sa mga bottles na yan. Can anyone guess, no? Sige, let's do a poll. How much do you think was raised sa Pondo ng Pinoy? We have a few choices, no? Ang few choices natin ay, ano nga ba yung pinag-usapan natin? 600,000, 6 million. Oo.
60 million and 600 million.
Right. So yeah. 600,000, 6 million, 60 million, 600 million. How much do you think was raised through Pondo ng Pinoy? Let's do our poll now. I remember this distinctly because my daughter was in school. No, she went to a Catholic school and she was required by her teacher to put 25 centavos. Sabi ko, lagyan ko na lang ng piso. Yung mga piso-piso. Kasi I didn't have 25 centavos at home. So yeah, no ma'am. Sabi ni teacher, kailangan 25. Each of those bottles, no, can actually fit up to 220 pesos, no, in 25 centavo coins, no. So ang may anecdote pa dyan na medyo naubusan ng 25 centavos, no, during the time ng Pondo ng Pinoy. Kasi nga, lahat ng mga Catholic schools nag-require ng participation sa Pondo ng Pinoy. So, I wonder if anybody will guess it right. All right. The results are 6 million pesos at 49%. Ooh. I am sorry to tell you that Pondo ng Pinoy raised 600 million pesos. 600 million pesos. No? Can you imagine how many 25 centavo coins that was? No? So, they did this, no? And today there is a Pondo ng Pinoy Community Foundation. Yung 600 million nila nakalagay sa bangko and only the interest is used for the programs of Pondo ng Pinoy. So I will go back to my class E, no? Siyempre, kapag 25 affordable, no? So if we are able to engage our less, Class E, for example, no, through this campaign, imagine how much you can raise from this. No? Again, 25 centavos, no, that can generate 600 million pesos for Ponto ng Tigre. Fascinating. I'm so fascinated. Now, there was an organization that used yung cans, soft drink cans. No? We found that pag nakikita mo yung barya, mas naiengganyo ka maghulog. No? So, if you're going to do this, use yung transparent na plastic bottles. No? Nakakatulong pa tayo sa environment kasi tinatanggal natin yan sa basurahan. No? So, very interesting case study ang Ponto ng Pinoy. Next slide, please. Okay, ito yung my favorite, no, when I was at UNICEF way back in the 90s, no, we did direct mail, no? Direct mail is when you send letters to people. We were mailing out 1 million letters every year, no? Can you imagine licking 1 million stamps, no? So, the reason for this, no, is today medyo mahirap na magawa ng direct mail. Unang-una medyo mahal siya, no? Pero pabalik ako doon sa mature adults, no? Mature adults wanting to give more, no? Mature adults prefer letters. Hindi pa rin sila sa email, hindi pa rin sila sa text, hindi pa rin sila sa Facebook, no? So you should always have a combination of strategies. In this case, this is intended for the mature audience, no? During our time, no, sa UNICEF, we use this for everybody kasi wala pang internet penetration, no? Wala pang email, no? So this was able to successfully raise over 20 million pesos, no? So this is a letter that talks about a young girl. Pangalan niya Joanne, no? And she's selling sampaguitas at 11 o'clock in the evening in the blinding rain. No? So there's only a small paragraph that talks about UNICEF. So it's very very unlike a UNICEF letter kasi UNICEF is United Nations Children's Fund would like to ganyan, di ba? Usually ganon. Ito, I asked that question as I was driving home one day just a few weeks ago. That was the first time I saw Joanne. No? So parang it's a compelling story. In fact, kung titingnan niyo yung envelope, no, may picture pa ng bata na nagbebenta ng sampaguita, no? So we also use a handwritten PS, no? Because ang PS po ay isang pinaka-importanteng part in a letter. That's actually one of the first things that people read. No? So you need to make sure that your PS is strong. And you need to make sure your handwriting is legible. Kasi kung hindi na babasa yung sulat ninyo, huwag na kayo mag-handwritten PS. No? So, direct mail is an expensive strategy, but it's still an important strategy for mature audiences. No? So it's important that you have something like this within your organization. Next slide. All right. I remember, I do a lot of fundraising workshops. And in one of those fundraising workshops, si Dr. Philip Cruz attended my workshop. And sabi, Mayan, wala akong budget, no, for direct mail. At that time, wala pang masyadong internet, no? So ito, no, sabi ko, why don't you try email? So he emailed, no, ang pangalan ng email niya, yung title is When Doctors Cry. It talked about how he, as a UPPGH pediatric ward intern, no, needed to choose which of the two babies will get the one incubator. No? Nakakalungkot, diba? So, itong email niyang to, pinasa niya sa mga friends niya, pinasa niya sa mga friends nila, etc., etc., no? May poll ba ako dito? Wala akong poll dito, no? Sorry, I'm just asking.
We don't.
This strategy, no? Hold on to your seats. This single email, no, was able to raise 41 million pesos. 41 million pesos. Because, una, compelling story. Imagine mo yun, making choices that only God should make. Wow, powerful statement. Pangalawa, he sent it to his friends, who sent it to their friends. So it wasn't like a cold, it was really his friends. No? So people know him. No? And so that is important. The two most important things in fundraising, compelling story and sending the ask to your friends or asking your friends for a gift. So fascinating story of Dr. Philip Cruz. Next slide. Our next strategy is online fundraising, no? So meron tayong tinatawag na cost-related marketing, meron din tayong tinatawag na online marketing or online fundraising. Ito, I think, is a picture of UNICEF with, is this Grab? Sorry. Ang UNICEF kasi has a partnership with Grab, no? Kung saan Grab would make an appeal to their yung mga customers ng Grab, no, to donate to UNICEF. In the same way, Zalora also raised money for Caritas, also raised money for World Vision. Ang tawag dyan, cost-related marketing. There is a company or a for-profit firm, no, raising money for a non-profit such as UNICEF or World Vision, no, or Caritas, no. So tawag diyan cost-related marketing, no. So yung online fundraising naman is kagaya ng example ko kanina, no, using the internet or using your email, no, in order to raise money, no. All right. Okay, I just got confirmation. This is Grab and UNICEF. So Grab, through the donations that Grab was able to get, no, from their customers, they were able to donate these things to UNICEF already, no? So press release ito ng Grab. So parang ang sinasabi ng Grab, huy, good corporate citizen kami, tumutulong kami, no, sa UNICEF. Si UNICEF naman is able to tap the network of Grab. Kasi hindi naman nila ordinarily makatatap yung network ng Grab. Kaya naghahanap ng partnership ang mga NGOs dyan because it opens up a new avenue for audience, no, to generate more donations. All right. Next, I think we have, all right. Now, if you do not have a budget to do fundraising, I suggest you look up Giving Hero. It is an app in the phone, no, that you can download. You can have a story, no, a short story. Hindi pwedeng mahabang story, no. You can have a short story, and then donors can go to Giving Hero and donate using GCash, Visa, Mastercard, etc. No? So ang hirap po kasing makakuha ng tinatawag nating payment portal, no? Kailangan ka mag-apply sa bangko, maraming sasubmit, etc. No? Given COVID, medyo matagal ang processing. Giving Hero po, application dyan is free. No? You can come up with your story for free. You can set a target, no? Then you can send a link. No, you can tell your friends, uy, punta ka naman sa Giving Hero, mag-donate ka sa akin. Kasi ngayon ang problema is collecting the donation, di ba? May gustong magbigay, pero hindi ka maabot, no? So, itong Giving Hero po is what we call a crowdfunding application. Marami po. Giving Hero is only one of many. I had personally met the gentleman who set this up, no? And, you know, yung roots niya, volunteer siya sa church, wanted to do something that has purpose, and he came up with Giving Hero as part of his thesis sa Asian Institute of Management. So it's a wonderful strategy, no, that gives you, no, access to people wanting to give without leaving their homes, no? So something for you to think about. Again, kailangan may kwento, kailangan may picture, kailangan yung kwento maikli, no? At kailangan yung amount na hinihingi natin, yung hindi nakakagulat din, ano? So meron dyan, I think there was one who, ang target niya was to raise 40,000 pesos and people could give 500, 1,000, etc. In fact, sa Giving Hero, the donor can even say, I will cover the cost of making that donation. Kasi may kakaltasin si Giving Hero sa donation to process their donation. The donor can actually say, sige, on top of my 100 peso donation, magbibigay ako to cover the cost of that, which is usually about 5% additional to cover the cost. So crowdfunding is another strategy you can explore. Okay. So iwanan na natin yung mga barya. Ito ngayon is medyo big bucks na to, no? The Mind Museum raised 1 billion pesos, no, to set up its facilities, no? Now, part of the strategy, no, was to ask large sums of money, no, and provide them naming rights in the museum, no? So Ajinomoto was actually one of the first to come in, no, to agree to a naming rights contribution of 50 million pesos, no? So paano namin ginawa yung sa my museum? kinompute namin yung total floor area, dinivide namin sa total budget, no, na kailangan. Tapos, kinompute namin, magkano ba kapag ipangalan itong square area ng isang gallery? No? So, tayo kasi kapag naming rights, sometimes ang ginagawa natin, magkano ba pintura? Magkano ba semento? No? Tapos, yun yung hinihingi natin. So, pag nag-fade na yung pintura, wala na tayong pang-pintura ulit. No? So, sa my museum, it was done another way. We computed, no, the cost or the suggested donation per square meter, no, and then use that to ask for donations in exchange for naming rights. So Ajinomoto, 50 million pesos for the Mine Museum. No? So for the Mine Museum, we focus on the large donors during the first few years, and only much, much later on did we raise money from small or retail fundraising strategies. Kasi ayaw natin na yung mga mayayaman, no, yung malalaking kumpanya, pumunta dito sa 1 million. No? So at the time that they were selling 50 million, that was the only thing they were selling. Somebody who wanted to give 1 million pesos would be told, time out, hindi pa kami handa tanggapin yan. Kasi, syempre, they say it in a nice way, no? So, dito muna kami sa 50 million. So, it's a very focused strategy, which is called a capital campaign. This is not for the weak of hearts. This is a strategy that requires a maturity, no, for any organization. All right, next slide. Ito, no, you can sell products. Now, we had a fun time actually discussing who's been selling all of these things. No? So the first picture is Kaayo, no, which is helping artisanal, yung mga tribes na nagbuburda. No? Siyempre, kilala natin ang Good Shepherd. No? Tuwing bibili kayo ng Good Shepherd, yung tag na nasa taas, you're sending a scholar to school. Ito, it's for the coffee farmers, no, which is the kickstart. No? Sa bottom is Messy Bessie, no, and they're helping women, no. So the proceeds of Messy Bessie, after they take out the cost of producing those very nice hand wash, etc., no, goes into helping women. Ayala Museum, no, they sell stationery, no, doon sa kanilang museum shop, and this is a mother and child by Anita Magsaysayho, no. Human Nature, no, is actually a social enterprise that is dedicated to Gawad Kalinga. And then this one is Malay Balay Coffee, no, which is for the coffee growers in Malay Balay. Actually, gusto ko yung tagline niya kasi ang sinasabi nila, they're more delicious than Starbucks, no? So, kung may maganda kayong produkto, you need to make sure they are packaged well, they are sold well, no? And don't price yourself too low. You look at the market, no? So in the case of Messy Bessie, maraming actually nag-isip that this was an imported brand. It's actually a local social enterprise started by a very, very young girl, no? Na had a passion to help the women, no? So next time you buy Messy Bessie, you're helping, no, these women, no, gain their independence also, no, financial independence. All right. So, in review, no, we need to make sure we have a healthy mix of fundraising sources, funding sources, grants, gifts, and earned income. Don't forget the small guys. No, don't just focus on the big guys. Start at the bottom of your pyramid and work your way up. There are no quick fixes to fundraising, unfortunately. No, a lot of what I know about fundraising, I learned over the past 3 decades that I've been doing fundraising, and I'm still learning. No, so today, what you have is a crash course. No, but it's certainly not complete. Now, you need money to raise money. Para din yung loto. If you don't have money, no, mahirapan tayo mag-fundraise kasi you're still going to need to buy paper. You're still going to need to set up a Gmail account. You're still going to need to spend a little, no, in order to raise money. And I think this is where I end my session, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, thanks for tuning in, everybody. You can find Mayan and her contact details down below on the slide. If you have some questions for her, contact her at mayan@quebral.org. Mayan also has a book which we will link on our event page and on the comments down below. It's bit.do/fundraising101. So again, bit.do dash fundraising 101. So before we close out, Mayan, do you have any last words?
I hope you enjoy fundraising as much as I do. Remember, it's not about the money, it's finding friends. Thank you very much for inviting me to join you in this webinar.
Okay. Ah, can we scooch back to the slide before? Yeah. Okay, so you can catch our next live stream on July 25 at 2 p.m. at the following pages by the Vibal Group, Chinatown Museum, and Iloilo Museum of Contemporary Art. Our next show will be about how teachers can use the art collections of the different Metro Manila museums for blended learning. So if this does well, maybe we'll do more different kinds of museums, more art museums that are also not in the metro. So we're really hoping for your support and for you to attend this next webinar. We also encourage you to RSVP on the next event pages, which you can also find on Vibal, Chinatown Museum, and Iloilo Museum of Contemporary Art, or Ilomoca. And we will keep you posted for updates and the releasing of certificates on the event pages. So it's very important to us that you kind of RSVP and you follow us there. Thanks for tuning in, and we hope you have a great day and that you learned a lot from this fundraising seminar. Thank you.